Beep, 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 beep. Announcement from the Jester. Right, we got an important thing that's happened. I love my warrior teachers. It's early in the morning. They're sending me stuff already. It comes pouring in. Right, it's okay, here we go. This has come from from SEGM. It's a tweet, and I will put the links in the doobras as usual. This is important, okay? This is a good news story. Let's have some good news. SEGM reports, and I think it's vital that we look at this, the Norwegian Healthcare Investigation Board, the NHIB/UKOM, has deemed puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgery for children and young people experimental, determining that the current gender affirmative, for those of you watching who may not be familiar with that term, gender affirmation has been the goal from way back. All you do is affirm. I think I'm a girl. Oh, you wonderful, wonderful young girl, you. Yes, you are. Your gendered soul is something that we will cherish. Look at all the people that love you. Amen. Right? That's been the goal forever, and it's been being used, wheedled in by the likes of Money and Stoller and WPATH and bloody mermaids and gyres and all the rubbish that goes with it, right? Gender affirmative, you only affirm. I think I'm a girl. Yes, you are. I think I'm a boy. Yes, you are. Oh, praise the gendered soul in the human flesh sack, right? Get it? That's what gender affirmation means. Belief in a sexed, a gendered soul that fills a flesh sack. Let's see, I've gone off the bloody topic now, mine. Right, so they've deemed puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones and surgery for children and young people experimental, determining that the current gender affirmative guidelines are not evidence-based and must be revised. The report asserts that future guidelines must rely on a systematic review of evidence rather than cherry-picking studies, and that all hormonal and surgical interventions must be restricted to research settings to ensure protocols, safeguarding and adequate follow-up. This is a resonance of the interim Cass report. This is the resonance of the work done here, mostly by women, right? And some of us, furry fellows, right? This is what's happened. It's the resonance of Cass moving out all the way to glorious Norway, okay? Which is a beautiful country. I went there when I visited the Arctic. Is that the one's down I've said before? Went to the last corner on the planet that was like, before we went into the tundra. Had a spar on it. Right, forget that. Moving on, right? So all hormonal and surgical interventions must be restricted to research settings to ensure clear protocols, safeguarding and adequate follow-up. The existing Norwegian treatment guidelines for gender dysphoric youth based on the 2015 report The Right or the Right Sex closely mirror WPATH gender affirming model. WPATH also think that it's okay to be a eunuch and want to be one and to have your bobbins cut off. Nonsense. Right, and let's make this straight. I don't think gender dysphoria doesn't exist. It's just people in distress, in this case children. Gender dysphoria, sod off. Bloody idea didn't exist until 1950. What the hell are you doing? We had a banter about that in the warrior teacher group yesterday. Ooh, there were some sparks a-flying, and it was fabulous to get some different opinions and pass those opinions on and start to really get to the nitty-gritty, because when we're getting to the nitty-gritty like that, it's because we're winning. It's because we're winning, okay? Right to the right sex, closely mirror WPATH, gender affirming model. Medical gender affirmation is widely available to youth with no psychological assessment required. Absolutely insane. Insane. Under the current Norwegian guidelines, youth may receive puberty blockers at Tanner stage 2, cross-sex hormones at 16 and surgeries at 18. The report noted that these widely available interventions are irreversible, carry many risks and rest on insufficient evidence. Holy crap. It's eugenics, part 2, isn't it, folks? The report criticised Norway's current gender affirmative guidelines as inadequate, noting a lack of specificity regarding assessment and determination of medical necessity of risky and irreversible interventions provided to youth whose identities are still forming. They can't help themselves. It's got nothing to do with identity. The problem is either mental illness or intellectual barrenness. That's the problem. The Norwegian Healthcare Investigation Board noted several worrying trends. The rapid rise in gender dysphoria in adolescents, especially females. Noted. How long have women been shouting about that? How long have people been saying it? How long has it been since Dr. Bell said we've got a problem? Ugh. The high burden of mental illness. 75% they're saying here. I'm saying most of them. and a high prevalence of neurocognitive conditions, ADHD, autism, Tourette's, etc. The recommendation, they haven't mentioned the fact that it's mostly gay and lesbians either, swine. The recommendations by Norwegian Healthcare Investigation Board align Norway with the changes among the growing number of European countries, Sweden, Finland and England, which aim to safeguard youth from harm by sharply restricting youth gender transitions. We've got to stop using their language. What that really should say is align Norway with the changes among the growing number of European countries, Sweden, Finland and England, which aim to safeguard youth from harm by sharply restricting their bizarre need to mutilate their bodies. However, unlike Sweden, Finland and England, Norway explicitly calls out the group of young adults whose development is still ongoing and who are at risk for erroneously undertaking bodily mutilation. It says here, gender transitions. We've got to stop using their language, people. The report notes that the age of consent for sterilisation in Norway is 25. They also note that the right to medical care does not include the right to experimental treatments. There we go. As an experimental intervention, gender transitions, bodily mutilation will be subject to heightened scrutiny. Really? You don't need a bloody report to tell you this. Heightened scrutiny around informed consent, eligibility criteria and outcomes evaluation. Norway's proposed model appears to resemble the model of care outlined in the Cass Review, as I said previously. Gender dysphoric youth, which I don't believe exist, will receive care for their distress in local primary care settings with multidisciplinary support. Youth gender transition will be an exception, not the rule. The board also comments on the highly polarised and unbalanced nature of the discussions surrounding care for gender dysphoric youth, which stifles scientific debate. The board calls on all parties to treat each other with professionalism, empathy and respect. Why? We are so far down the road of being morally incompetent that we're having to say, you have to treat these people professionally and with empathy. I've got no problem with that, but I ain't respecting you, you same-sex child mutilating swine. SEGM will be analysing the report in more detail. Currently, our assessment is that the UKOM report is akin to Cass Review, and that it makes recommendations for restructuring youth gender services. I don't want to restructure them, I want to close them. How Norway's NHS will implement these recommendations remain to be seen. And that's about it. Then they've got the report attached, which of course I'll put the tweet into the links in the doomeries so that you can have a look. We did have a very, very interesting conversation in the Warrior Teacher Programme session last night about this, and it was really interesting to hear some people say some things and some say others. But to lay out the position that I feel is the position we need to take. This was always and ever was an ontological and linguistic attack upon our society, and by that I mean it was about the production of knowledge and the use of language. We must control the language, and I've said this before. Right, and there's been great advice and great guidance come from Clive, for example, and a nurse I was talking to yesterday evening, and other people saying, yeah, but you've got to use language they know. Now, I'm okay with that to a certain degree, but I think, and I've said it before, I think a lot of this is about education, and I think that anything that's going on cannot be wholly held in the hands of the medical establishment, which has let us down so badly. And that alongside any intervention, there also needs to be an educational programme that goes with this, that tells them the absolute truth about what happened when John Money, Kinsey, Stoller and the rest of those wicked men got together and experimented on children using the most appalling methods, and did so with impunity, inventing gender identity, putting into law and into practice within psychology and medicine a virus as equally evil as eugenics. As equally evil as eugenics. And what I will not have, and what I will fight firmly, is anyone or any organisation who seeks to carve themselves out a nice little earner on the back of the fact that this particular behemoth is beginning to fall to pieces. Gender identity is personality. Gender expression is fashion. End of. Jester out.